This movie, Royal Tenenbaums, if you said this, it's the story of like a bad dad who goes back into the family that's having an emotional crisis, and his sort of tough talking, tell it like it is attitude kind of sets everybody right. If you say it like that, it sounds really pat. That is what happens, but like in a non-shitty way.
Well, and also in a way that it had no right to do. Like on paper, that doesn't sound like something that would really work, because having a bad dad is what put these people on the path they're on. Yes.
The mom too, though.
Sure, it does seem like she definitely stressed each of her children being special rather than being loved. Gene Hackman's heart, or like whatever it is he's being told to do, is what it's. He has to earn it. He does put in. Him becoming an elevator operator is like just this truly humbling thing, and it finally starts to penetrate the boundaries that the two children who are not excited to have him back in their lives have put up for very good reason. For whatever reason, he just very much favors Richie. And you know, they give us a bunch of tidbits about their childhood, and they don't really explain that. Just Richie's just very focused on his career, and then gets shot in the hand by his dad when they were on the same team with a BB gun, and that's all they tell you. And then after that, they're just like, he only ever brought Richie to do things. But
yeah, so Chaz is the one who got shot.
Chaz is the one that gets shot. And then of course, you know, Gwenyth Paltrow's Margot. It's Margot, right? Yeah. Her character, that's obvious. It's hard enough being adopted, let alone being constantly told you're not part of the family. Well, so that went without saying, especially after showing the scene where he does not at all understand her play that she wrote.
Mm-hmm. And he says, I don't understand any of us. And he includes himself there.
Yeah.
He's not that self-aware, and he doesn't actually seem to change that much as the movie goes on, nor does he even seem in control of what he's doing.
He's just around more.
He's just reactionary, but him being around is exactly what they need in this moment.
Right. Well, and it's what they needed all along, right? It was the absence of him that made it much more significant than it needed to be. He could have been a jerk all the time around him, but they would have all been much more adjusted and secure. You know, when Ben Stiller's character loses his wife, he might not have completely gone off the deep end if he felt like people were constantly disappearing from his life, and he needed to hold on to his kids so tight. And well, yeah, just not having one of your parents around, even if they're a dick, is worse than them just kind of being rude every now and then. Now, if they're physically abusive, they can go away.
Well, the movie walks the line, because like he is kind of, you know, he's emotionally abusive in his way, but you are left with like, they would have been better. Well, they would have been better off if Danny Glover were their dad the whole time. But it's just like, it is a specific moment in time where exactly who he is exactly what they need. It doesn't work for everybody. He doesn't actually fix it with Gwenyth Paltrow. You
know what's interesting thing? It's what you're always saying. Parenting is just about being there, and it's not about doing it right all the time. It is just be there for as many things as you can be there for. Because when you look back on their life together before he kind of was asked to stop attending things, he was at everything. He was commenting on a play that he attended and a birthday party that he was attending, and his son had a huge breakdown at a tennis match that he was attending. Until he was asked to stop, he didn't stop.
He was there,
and things were just better. He just doesn't know exactly how to fix something after he's put his foot in his mouth. But if they would have kept letting him show up, it might have been a little better.
Yes, when he has his moment with Luke Wilson where he's like, Luke Wilson says, I'm in love with my sister. What do I do? And he's like, I wish I could tell you what to do. I have no idea. I wish I could tell you how to fix it. I can't. And he's like, that's okay, Dad. Yeah. He's like, no, it's not okay. But this is when you realize, actually,
it is.
That's the main job of the parent, is you be there. I can't fix your problems for you.
Right.
But I can be here with you and for you.
Yep.
And then them with Ben Stiller, who he keeps trying to like, can't you just say you forgive me? Trying to have the movie version of the reconciliation, which never comes.
No.
But what does come, he gives his son, he buys him a Dalmatian. His dad then Ben Stiller finally just says, Dad, I've had a tough year. And he just says, I know you have, Chazzy.
Right. And it's very touching. But what he does is, you know, he's been scared to death that he's going to lose his two children because he so tragically lost his wife that same year. So when his dad saves the children's lives, literally pulls them out from getting killed the way the dog gets killed at the end, That's what I mean. That and then as soon as he saves their lives, he goes buys them a dog because the dog was killed. So
right.
like it's the doubling. I think it's the first thing that probably really got through to Ben.
Of course, but Gene Hackman's the character's like, I'm never saying the right things,
right? And I'm not going to.
Here, it's like, that doesn't matter. All you have to do, like I'm just here for my son's pain. I know you've had a tough year.
Well, and you were standing right, because you're at this wedding, the wedding of your ex-wife, you were standing right there when my two sons needed to be moved out of the way. It's because you were just here, not because you know how to do fucking first aid or how to save the day. It's when you're not here, you can't help. And you haven't even met my kids until now, which is insane because one of them is clearly like 10. And then my wife has died. There's been a funeral. I didn't see you at all for that. It seems like Gene Hackman's character, once he stops doing something, he just stops he seems like he's a creature of habit. He needs a routine. And once he was asked to not be a part of that routine in such an obvious way, he just, well, I'm just not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. It almost didn't seem like it was personal.
Because it's not. Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't think of it that way.
Right.
But yeah, the book opens. Alec Baldwin is the narrator. Royal Tenenbaums bought the house on Archer Avenue. And the movie's opening with an orchestral instrumental version of Hey Jude. It is very audacious to open the movie this way. We get to see the three kids as kids with their dad, Gene Hackman, telling them about their parents getting divorced, even though they never legally get divorced. Ethel Tenenbaum keeps the house, raises the children. Their education was her biggest priority. But the movie's not judgmental about either of the parents. It's not judgmental about Royal. And I think that it's only watching the movie back to back like I just did, realizing how at fault Ethel Tenenbaum is for fucking up her kids, in the same way that all kids who grow up in a hyper-competitive environment where achievement is emphasized above all else are inevitably going to be fucked up.
Yeah, but even until Royal is out of the picture, they are just these are just very smart kids that, I mean, at least like Chaz, no one told him to invent a new kind of gerbil or, or run a tax business out of his bedroom or whatever he was doing. Like, that's just something that kid was going to do. And then the other two are gifted as well. So it almost more seems like she was left a single parent and just tried to encourage what her kids already were interested in without giving a thought to like, but is that the right thing to do? Like, I don't think there was malice in it.
No, there's no malice.
Yeah,
absolutely. And she wrote a book about how to be a great parent.
Parenting geniuses.
Has the chalkboard schedule. She's got them all scheduled.
When you have 3 kids, you got to schedule them.
The daughter's writing plays, the other son's playing tennis as a kid. But then there's the interesting thing of the narrator says, by the time they were adults, the brilliance or the genius of the young Tenenbaums was mostly forgotten, because it's all like they all kind of peaked when they were kids.
Right.
And that was that, even though Chaz seems like a success as an adult.
He has a really nice house.
Yeah. Richie's career is, ended when he was 26, and now he has the rest of his life in front of him. Margot can't complete another play.
And apparently married a father figure and hates him too.
Yeah. So it is a very, very just interesting set of dynamic here. The cast is incredible, but here are your central characters. And then we we also meet the Hawk Mordecai. And then like a play, the cast of characters is introduced with the, adult actor who's going to play them. Royal Tenenbaum gets evicted from his hotel room where he's lived at the Lindbergh Palace Hotel for 22 years. They tell him he's getting evicted and he doesn't even seem to take that seriously, because it's like he's led a consequence-free life. Mm-hmm. It's how you end up as this guy who's like, oh shit, I'm in my late 60s and I haven't spoken to my family in years because I've never thought there were consequences to anything.
Right. I always assumed I'd get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the little kids that I left are still what they're like, so they'll forgive me.
Right. But now, even though I'm not really dying, like I am facing down the prospect of mortality, even though that's not why he does what he does. Richie is on an extended cruise voyage, having washed out of the tennis circuit after an epic meltdown. Eli, their best friend, became a literary star with Old Custer. I'd always heard people making this joke. Everyone knows Custer died at Little Bighorn, but what my book presupposes is maybe he didn't. I didn't know that that frame came from this movie.
Yeah. It's funny, like even people adjacent to this family also have this need to like become something exceptional, especially for someone like Richie who lives across the street from this mansion, and he's in a very, typical small humble apartment, but he's constantly over at their house. It's the dad even says it at one point, like, I would have given anything to be a Tenenbaum. And then the dad says, me too. And he is, senior Tenenbaum. But I think everyone in that family felt that way, except for maybe the mom. Like, I think all of them were just trying to earn this name.
So he calls up Margot. He's reading a bad review of his book. Why would someone write in a review that someone is specifically not a genius? Do you think I'm not a genius? Oh, wow. You didn't even have to think about it, did you?
It's just not a word that I take lightly.
She keeps herself locked in her bathroom, secretly smoking and hiding from her husband, Bill Murray, who is doing experiments with this kid, Dudley, who has a combination of dyslexia, amnesia, and colorblindness. And then Ben Stiller is Chaz, and he is very neurotic. His wife died in a plane crash. The plane crash, but his 2 sons and their dog all survived the plane crash. And he is just making them crazy and neurotic and making them wake up in the middle of the night to do fire drills. Ethel Anjelica Huston is now a successful archaeologist. And her business manager, Harry Sherman, Danny Glover, is in love with her, proposes marriage to her. Okay, anyway, and then that's the instigation, because Pagoda, their in-home helper, is still in contact with Royal, contacts him. Danny Glover's proposed to your wife. Oh, shit. So...
Well, this is perfect timing. I just got kicked out of my hotel.
So Ben Stiller and his kids move in with Ethel, and there's the great moment where Ben Stiller like gets his kids settled in the bunk beds and then lays a sleeping bag down on the ground, and then the kid in the top bunk immediately climbs down and lays in the sleeping bed next to him. Yeah. These it's all small moments in all of Wes Anderson movies that you might even like miss, and then you realize how powerful that is. Ethel goes to visit Margot, who's just, again, locks herself in her bathroom.
I do, just to again, support Ethel. There are all the signs that she is a good mom, or she is very trusted by her kids. I mean, she doesn't just get let in the bathroom. The key is immediately shot out to her. And in this adult Margot is comfortable being in a bathtub while her mom sits there closely and like talks to her. That it's just, there's a trust there, a sincerity. They all think of their mom as a rock, and that's you need that if you're gonna not have your dad around.
Yeah. Well, and then she tells her about her brother moving in with her, and Gwenyth Paltrow immediately says, "Why is he allowed to do that?" Which is just a great line. Why is he allowed to? As in, which tells you everything. Like, I've been wanting to move in with you, and you won't let me.
Because none of them are great at communication. There's just a lot unsaid, but maybe she's been hinting at how depressed she is, and it hasn't received an invitation.
Yeah, but I think that you can look at it and say it's so great how close they are to their mom and how much they want to be around their mom, but then you can also see she has not necessarily set them up to be independent people.
Sure, yeah. And that you grow up in a house like that, it's so lived in, it's so energetic. It's so many things to so many different people. It's a place of business. It's a place where you get away from your own life. It is your house. It's all these things. And it's like, sometimes it's kind of like the Weasley house. Like there's just a vibe that you just want to keep going back to it.
Yeah.
So there's also something magical about the house. Like I think they all just feel most at home there. And they're all very like, they self-isolate. So it's helpful to be in a house full of those kinds of people, because you're not going to be overwhelmed by how much they're interacting with you, but it will force you to also like be around people you love, where your instinct isn't to do that. None of them have that instinct. One's been on a boat for years. The other one only hangs out with his 2 kids, and she spends 6 hours a day in the bathroom. So it's like, there's this forced community that they all just kind of instinctively know that's the only way they're going to get it, is being around the other people who are just like them.
She stays in the bathroom and she secretly smokes. So that is another indicator. There is something like somebody so scared of telling people that she is a smoker.
Not scared. She's secretive as a protection, as a way of keeping something that's just hers. Not scared. It's more of like, this is just for me to know. Why should you get to know? It's not like, oh, I care that you're going to tell me to stop smoking. It's just, no, this is something that I know and you don't know this about me. Because they describe her as a intensely secretive person. People that are just secretive, that's the end. That's the whole point, is to have them.
I mean, I rate it as her not wanting their disapproval. Then when it's finally exposed, her mom's like, oh, you should quit. And then that's it. It's not, It was always built that she built it up way too big.
I don't rate it as that at all.
She leaves her husband, kind of. He's like, well, you're leaving? You don't love me anymore? And she says, I do, kind of. I can't explain it. But she goes back to her house, to her old house where Owen Wilson is waiting in the closet because she's in a secret affair with him. Now, one of the best things about the movie is the chemistry between Gene Hackman and Anjelica Huston. And there's this wonderful scene where the camera is pretty static. It is both of them in profile, and you just see him telling her his lie. We don't know it's a lie yet that he is dying. Baby, I'm dying. I'll be dead in 6 weeks. Because he first starts by saying, I want my family back. Can we spend some time together? And she's like, no, fuck, no, and leaves. But yeah, I'm dying. So she like immediately starts breaking down, and she's just like, oh God, what's happening? And he just kind of like starts to hold his stomach, like gonna explain I have stomach cancer.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, because she just keeps getting more and more upset. So he then stops. He's like, no, I'm not dying. I'm not dying, but I do need some time. Can you just give it to me? And then she immediately hits him and shouts, what's wrong with you? So goes back to the original play. I'm dying. And it's a heart-wrenching scene and a hilarious scene, and just one of the best scenes in the movie. And now all of the various characters we have met are finding out about Royal Tenenbaum dying. Richie Tenenbaum agrees to end his cruise voyage so he can return home. He is met at the cruise terminal by Gwenyth Paltrow, and there's, the iconic shot of Gwenyth Paltrow getting off of the bus in slow motion, and it's pretty clear that she's in love with him too at this point, right?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. And they have a nice little reunion. And now, for the first time in 17 years, all 3 Tenenbaum children are living under the same roof again.
Something else to point to the fact that the house is magical. It's like once someone becomes aware of the house, they don't ever seem to leave it. So, for some reason, her business associate, who is not really her boyfriend yet, but they are going to get married. I mean, they're clearly friends. They know each other forever, but all of a sudden he's just kind of always at that house too. And then like Bill Murray, who you're separated from your wife, but you're still always at this house too, especially after you guys kind of like talk through it. And not just you, Bill Murray, but your patient, for some reason, is also always at this house.
Yeah, it just has this pull.
It does. And the house is like, I love that I have no idea how it's made. I don't understand how any of the rooms go together. The kitchen does not make sense at all. It's tiny. You almost get the sense, okay, this is probably like the maid's quarter kit. Like there's just a few of everything in the house. Because maybe it was for multiple families at one point or whatever. Or it's very normal in like a mansion to have the big impressive kitchen and then the one that cooks actually cook in. But they never show you a big kitchen. It's just kitchen. None of the rooms are big and impressive. And it feels kind of, but they're homey and they're fun to be in. But they're all small, right? It's an older house. Big giant rooms just weren't needed. And it does seem like it is an old hotel because the phone booth in the hallway, it's the way you would have done it if you needed a common place to put the phone. You don't put a phone in every room or something like that. And then when Chaz and his 2 kids are coming in with all their luggage to stay, and she's hosting a bridge night, she looks like she's in the lobby of some kind of hotel and he's checking in. So it would make sense why all these rooms none of them seem to have a huge big purpose. They're just, you can just put whatever you want in them.
Yeah, they're disparate. And there's an intercom linking everything. So it is even more like a hotel. Not that hotels have intercoms, but it's like everything is so compartmentalized.
Right. There's something like an apartment complex vibe or so. It doesn't feel like one giant house.
It also feels like the kind of house a kid would design.
Yes. And like every room has a theme, it just depends on the personality inhabiting it. And it's like, they seem like they're a little bit worried, how are we all going to fit in here? But it seems like the biggest fucking house ever. Why is someone in a tent? Why are the boys in this, like, it's probably just a house that's been, things go into it. They don't come out of it. So it's like, none of these rooms are really set up for people to stay in them, but you guys can put bunk beds where all these books are. Yeah.
And just keep doing the things you did when you were a kid. When you were a kid, you loved sleeping in the tent. Now you're an adult and you shall sleep in the tent again. There's the closet with every board game ever made, which just seems like a Wes Anderson wet dream. Probably why he became a director, to do things like that. Whenever Gene Hackman is talking about the kids or talking to, like, he'll be like, okay, boys and girl, or like when he's talking to Anjelica Huston, he's like, I want to see the children. He's always sort of talking about them as if they are kids.
Still little, yeah.
He says, like, I've missed the hell out of you, my darlings.
Yeah, he talks
to a bunch of 30-year-olds.
Right.
So he's, I got a pretty bad case of the cancer. And
taking stomach cancer medicine.
You're all I've got, and I love you more than anything. Right when he says this, Ben Stiller just laughs in the background.
Well, and it feels like time just kind of froze when he left. And maybe during that talk, even when he's being kicked out, he's still kind of coming to see things and it hasn't been kicked out of their lives, but they all seem to have stopped growing and kind of processing when he left. And I think maybe it's because he left it open. He said, we might be getting a divorce, but I'm leaving. So they don't even know whether to say goodbye. It's like, okay, so you might be coming back. And I think leaving it open-ended like that left all of them in a place where they weren't at all processing that it's over. And that's why I think it's so powerful, the Anjelica Huston being told he's dying moment, because all that emotion is not for an ex-husband. That is for somebody you have not at all worked out all of your complicated feelings with, probably because he's not a person you can really work them out with. But whatever it is there that you fell in love with, that's all still there. And he's charming as hell. And you're always going to kind of be in love with him.
Which you can see in her performance, which is so great.
But I even forgot, like, wait, does she end up with Danny Glover? Because, like, it just seems like they are so in love. But that you can be in love with him and never, ever see a future. Like, it just will not be a satisfying partnership. And I think that's kind of where the kids were all stuck, too. It's like, you're impossible not to love. But when we're depending on you for, like, reassurance and like you being there at a time when you say you're going to be there, that's where this all falls apart. So are you really a dad? You're something and we're drawn to you, but it's not ever going to be enough. You're not enough of any of these things.
Ben Stiller's the one who resents him the most. Luke Wilson is the one who's like kind of always on his side. He was the favorite when he was a kid, and he's still like, come on, give the old man a chance.
Yeah.
Which there's usually a kid like that in the group. Gwenyth Paltrow, the one who was actually most abused by him, is somewhere in between, kind of very distrustful of him, not enthusiastic about doing anything with him again, but doesn't seem to have the seething resentment that Ben Stiller has.
Right, because she never had the opportunity to be completely loved either, where I think Ben Stiller's character at least felt very loved at one time, very supported, until he felt that betrayal from his dad by him shooting him when he thought they were on the same team. And Margot's always felt outside. She feels included by the rest of them, but there's no love lost with him because she never felt truly loved by him. And Margot's character is very important because the Tenenbaums don't seem to understand the gravitas they have, or like they don't seem to understand like the sheer privilege they're experiencing. They're rich people that don't feel rich. They all wear the same outfit all the time, and they don't seem happy or like rich people. But like when you're an outsider and you're looking at them, you're just thinking, I just wish that I belonged here. So having Margot constantly feeling like an outsider, I don't know, is powerful because it stands in for all of us, but it also is very sweet when she speaks up 2 different times for Danny Glover's character, who has been around the family for 10 years, who very much cares for the mom. And when he has one opinion and someone tells him to pipe down because he's not part of the family, fuck you. Whoever's around is a part of the family.
Yeah, that's true.
You haven't been around. Let him talk.
What I love is even in that scene, though, when Ben Stiller says that about Danny Glover, they're like, don't talk about him that way. He's a part of this too. Or you've known him for 10 years. Right. It's like, yeah, I knew him as your accountant. That's a good point. Like, yeah, I didn't know I needed to think of you in
Okay, but also, Chaz, you're a grown-up that's been handling your own life this whole 10 years, right? 10 years sounds like the age of your son. So there's no fucking coincidence there. Yeah, you've only known me as much as you've known Mr. Whatever for 10 years too, because you don't ask me about me. You don't ask me who my best friends are, who I hang out with all the time. You're not at this house. You just are at this house now.
Yeah.
So he's more a part of this than you could have any clue of, because you haven't asked.
And then Margot being adopted, which her father always introduces her, and this is my adopted daughter Margot, which is hilarious. Now, I have an adopted sister. I never call her my adopted sister unless I have to clarify, like, well, because she's Korean and I'm not, right. So I'll explain. But yeah, adopted kids are your kids in every single way. And what's interesting is they will then sort of interrogate. And Gene Hackman, Royal will even say to his biological child, "Do you consider me your father?" In like these identities, they are not strictly just based on blood. They are a role that you play. When Margot says, when Gene Hackman is kicked out of the house again, he says of Henry, of Danny Glover, "He's not your father. Neither are you." I don't think she's saying because I'm adopted. She's saying because you did not play the role of my father.
Yeah.
But because Royal is just making this up as he goes along, he doesn't actually have a plan. "Well, I want to spend some time with you." "Well, like, what do you want to do?" And he's like, well, I thought we could go visit my mother's grave.
Chop it up, right? He does that a lot. He also, for someone who really wants a lot of favors, also doesn't have any problem asserting when he doesn't like something or when he can't. He's not being agreeable, and I don't think that's an option for him.
Margot was never invited to see his mother's grave when she was a kid. And he's like, "Well, she wasn't your real grandmother, so I didn't think you'd have any interest."
Wait, but wasn't it that she was never invited to go to her house when she was alive, though, too?
Oh, was it that too?
Like, well,
that could, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I just love,
didn't
know how interested. It's like, yeah, kids aren't interested in anything. You just make them do stuff.
Right. You just include them so they know that they have a place if they want it.
But you're invited now. And they're like, yeah, Chaz's wife, Rachel, his late wife is there. And he's like, "Who?"
That is pretty fucking hardcore that you are so uninvolved in your kids' lives that you did not know the name of who just died. You weren't at the funeral. You haven't met the children. I mean, that's some deep level.
Well, what's special about this performance is that you don't hate him for
right. Yeah.
And then he has so much. He feels so self-assured when he's like, "Wow, we'll swing by her grave too."
Take a swing over there.
Yeah, Richie is now immediately gets up and hugs his dad. "Dad, I'm glad you're here, Pop." Okay. And then finally Royal gets introduced to Henry Sherman, to Danny Glover, and he's like, "Lay it on me, man."
Right, he's saying all the wrong things. And he calls him Coltrane at one point. He's like, "Did you just call me
Did you call me Coltrane?" No.
But what if I did? What's really amazing about the dad character is he seems like a person with bad intentions that's got some kind of like con he's going to run, or that he wants something out of people more than what he's saying he wants. And it's just, the more you get to know him, the more you're like, you really do just want to hang out. And like, when he gets kicked out of the house, you feel hurt too, because you feel getting kicked out. Like, we've all had these special little weird suspended in animation times of our lives where we're not doing our regular day-to-day stuff. We're just getting to enjoy like a group of people we don't normally get to do. Like when Hurricane Ida happened and we didn't have power for a week and I just couldn't work as much as I wanted to. All of a sudden I started hanging out with our older neighbor person because our kid was playing with his kid. And it was just like this special time of like, I'm just going to go to your house every day and we're just going to hang out. I'm just going to walk in and I'm going to knock. It was just like this like special, we're just doing this right now. Let's just be here. I don't know how to explain it, but you know it when it's happening. I guess Katrina's another time where it's like, we don't have any choice. Let's just.
Yeah. These forced new connections.
Yeah. And like in really making time for them, and which it's not going to last.
He is not necessarily expecting to enjoy it all. He's just, I just got to do something. I don't have a place to stay.
Right.
We see the scene with Richie, Luke Wilson is best friends with Eli, Owen Wilson, and he had told him in confidence that he's in love with his sister. he then immediately tells the sister,
right?
Guess what I heard?
We don't know that I didn't totally know they were fucking yet. I mean, I know he's in her closet, but he's weird.
Yeah,
so maybe he's in her closet.
Yeah. And he tells her this while he's giving her a ride and he has to stop to buy drugs. Then we see Henry talking to Ethel at this dig site. She is walking and talking with him, and then he falls into a hole without her realizing it. That, for some reason, makes her realize how much she likes him. And then she's like, well, I'm just very nervous. I haven't slept with a man in 17 years. And so they kiss, and it's wonderfully sweet. And I think the secret weapon with Danny Glover, his entire career, even though he plays cranky guys, is the sweetness. Mm-hmm. He's always secretly a sweetheart, even in the Lethal Weapon movies. I think that's the key to the Lethal Weapon movies, is how much his character loves Mel Gibson's character and how happy he is to have this great new friend.
No, just that makes me want to watch the movie right now.
Royal then goes to, he's never been allowed to meet his grandkids. They've been told he was dead. Mm-hmm. When he
I'm alive now.
I thought you told us he was dead. Yeah, I did. Well, he's dying now. But yeah, he goes up to meet them on the roof where they are working out. Their dad makes them work out 16 times a week. Yeah. And he's just like, "Hey kids, that's a hell of a hound dog you got there."
He likes to make any dog he meets sit to see if he's a good boy.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Anyway, I'm very sorry for your loss. Your mother was a terribly attractive woman. He schemes with them. Can you get your dad to tell them? Here's what you tell them. Mom really would like it if you let us have a relationship with our grandfather before he died. I think that his relationship with the kids is one of my favorite.
Yes, and that's what made me go on the diatribe I just did earlier, was that you keep waiting for him to be in it just for him in a way that feels wrong. But when you see him genuinely care about, enjoy, and like hanging out with the kids is not a way for him to get to his son, that he just wants to be by the kids. Like there's just something so nice about that.
And that it's not necessarily on paper, you'd be like, this isn't good. He's taking them to attend dog fights and to shoplift and to ride illegally on garbage trucks.
Right, in traffic.
But it is what these kids specifically need. Their dad has made them be afraid of the world, and he doesn't mean to be doing this, but what he is showing them is you don't have to be so afraid, especially if you're from a rich family.
You chop it up.
Even if you weren't, you have to understand that part of life is that there is danger, and that's okay.
And just because one really tragic, horrible thing happened during a dangerous moment does not mean that all danger goes there.
Yeah. And also, you have to have fun in life. Why else are we here? They all go to the graveyard for this great grave sequence.
That's a hell of a grave right here. Him and Luke Wilson are just looking at someone else's man,
a stranger's grave.
Someone liked him.
Ben Stiller's like, okay, I'm going to go see Rachel. Gene Hackman's like, all right, we have another body to see here.
Here, take some of these.
He picks up half of the flowers that he left on his mom's grave and gives them to him. And I love that whenever Ben Stiller takes the flowers, he's mad, but he's not like, I don't want your fucking flowers.
Right.
We see now the flashback footage of why Richie melted down on the tennis court. And it's just it's not even a meltdown. He just surrenders. I am not playing tennis anymore.
He's not even trying.
Yeah. And it's because you see in the flashback, they show his sister in the crowd. They're like, and there's his sister Margot, just married yesterday to the man she's sitting next to, Raleigh St. Clair.
He's took off one shoe and one sock, Bob, and he seems to be crying.
Royal talks to Chaz and he's like, listen, you feel like you could just start forgiving me? And he asks, why should I? And his answer is just, well, because you're hurting me. Which is it's all entirely selfish. It's because so we can move on, or because your heart will be lighter. It's no, you're hurting me.
Yeah, but it's also probably nice to hear that me being mad at you makes you hurt.
That's true.
Because you don't seem like someone I could hurt.
Yeah, that's true.
You seem so indifferent to me.
But we also see, he's like He touches Ben Stiller's hand and sees that the BB is still lodged in his hand. He's like, how about that?
He just moves it around too, because he doesn't just want to check on it. He wants to fuck with it a little. Chop it up. I guess I'm saying chop it up.
And his dad or Ben Stiller is like, I still don't understand why you shot me. And he's like, because that was the game. And he's like, no, we were on the same team. He's like, oh, all right. Well, I'm not mad at you for you suing me. Because he sued him because his dad expropriated funds from his business when he was a child, and he sued his dad and got him disbarred.
It's fucked up.
so he's trying to force the movie reconciliation. Can you say you forgive me? And he just walks away. Mm-hmm. So he talks to the kids. The kids are like, were you in prison? Huh? Kind of. I got minimum security. I got jacked by the IRS. Anyway, let's move. Call me Mr. Tenenbaum. Okay. No, I'm kidding. Call me Pappy. Now let's shag ass.
I really want to know how many of these words are Gene Hackman's words and what's written. Is Wes Anderson the kind of person that's very deliberate in his script?
I think, there's not a lot of improv. I think when you have movies like this, when every shot is so intentionally set up, you don't have a lot of room for improv.
Got it. So stupid.
But again, we said this. The thing about parenting is you can't microwave it. You can't just show up and be like, "Well, I'm here now, so let's let's get to it. Let's start forgiving each other. Let's have the heart to heart. Let's say what needs to be said." And that's just not how that's not how people work.
You're gonna just have to keep plugging away and putting in the time.
Right.
That's it. It's all you can do.
And it sucks. It'd be nice if you can. But that's why certain movies we've covered in the past haven't worked for me. Because it's just a storytelling crutch of finally my reconciliation with my parent or whatever. And my understanding of life is that reconciliation doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much.
Just keep trying.
Margot tells Richie that she knows he loves her. And he says, I know you smoke. I don't smoke. Well, your cigarettes fell out of your pocket. And they move on.
Okay. But do you use the same voice for both brothers?
How can you differentiate?
I don't know.
Well, because now they go to talk to each other. Like, hello, Eli. It's me, Richie.
It is weird
Richie,
that they're not related when they look just like that and sound just like that. But this movie insists they're not related.
I know. They're also not.
Like they could have just been both Tenenbaums,
a movie about him wishing he was his brother.
Right. It's like, well, I have good news. You look exactly the fuck like him.
And they're not brothers in Bottle Rocket, even though they seem like they are. Yeah.
Those noses are so fucking unique. They're just, how do you do it? How do you get one twice?
I think if I have one criticism of this movie, or a thing that I think the movie is missing, it's that I wish you understood more about the siblings' relationships with each other. You get Richie and Margot, but you don't necessarily understand much about the other two.
Well, this story is so much about these few months leading up to the dad dying. I mean, because the movie doesn't make a whole bunch out of it. It turns out he really was dying, and like the priest breaks his ankle going down the stairs on the day that the day that Chaz and him reconcile, right? Which is like the big part of the movie. It's like, oh, that finally happened. And then they have the sequence of them like hanging out, and you're like, oh, I'm glad they got to do that. But you realize it's like maybe a month, maybe two. It really, it might as well have been terminal cancer because it really was. So this whole movie is just about it just seems like it's about what's important to the dad. It seems intentionally not a full picture of everyone else.
But you get some of the picture. That isn't just about the dad. And I think that when you now add in somebody who isn't a sibling, and I love Owen Wilson in the movie, and he's very important to the movie, but it does make me wish that maybe the understanding you get of how he relates to them, you also got of how the siblings relate to each other. Because there's a scene where Ben Stiller goes into Luke Wilson's tent and he's like, why do you hate me? And he's like, I don't hate you. Like, sorry, what is that referring to?
Well, this is what it's referring to. It's that to Ben Stiller's character, it should be very obvious why we are mad at dad, we hate dad. Like, you went through this traumatic fucking meltdown. Have you heard from him? No, I didn't think you had. Also, he's been on a boat though. And I mean, all Chaz can think of is, I just lost my fucking wife, and I've spent the last year terrified that I'm going to lose the other two things that matter to me. And I just need someone to tell me I'm crazy and that that's not going to happen. And so I think Chaz would have been fine until he left his wife, until the wife was killed. Like, I think he would have been a different person to try to have this, hey, I'm dying, you want to hang out? I think he would have been more open to it. But I mean, Chaz has had 2 children and a tragedy and has not seen his dad once during those times, where Luke Wilson's character has had his dad at his tennis matches, and he decided to go off the grid, and that's when he stopped interacting with his dad. So I mean, like, yeah, they've had very different levels of interest. So the two brothers being caring about each other and loving each other, they don't talk about that. They don't hang out. So the only way they could really show, like, look, no, I have your back, I do love you, is I'm also going to be mad at Dad. And the fact that he's trying to take up for him, and he's trying to, like, get everybody else, just give them not a lot. None of them try very much of anything a lot. They're not big talkers, but it's like, all you have to do is be on my side for this. And we know that character very much cares about who's on whose side, right? With the whole BB gun thing. Mm-hmm, so, that's all. It just means you hate me. You shot me. That means you hate me. You don't like Dad. You're on his side. That means you hate me. They just don't have communication skills. They weren't taught. The mom doesn't talk very much, and the dad sure the fuck does not reconcile or figure out how to talk through things. So, like, that's really the place where all of the kids are the most stunted, is they have no words.
In Wes Anderson movies, people just say what's on their mind in a monotone, in a sort of autistic way, or sort of like cliche Hollywood depiction of how autistic people are. Because real autistic people are not monotone at all.
No.
But his characters are very blunt. They can be rude, and they just express what is literally on their mind. You and I were talking about this, about how you can kind of read every person in a Wes Anderson movie as autistic, and sort of lacking a social understanding, or an understanding of social dynamics. But saying what's on your mind can make things simpler. You said, I think that what this movie shows is that's
not true.
It's not true, because conflict arises from people still wanting different things.
Yeah.
Other people.
But so, for instance, like Margot and her husband, every time he asks, "Do you not love me? Are you coming back?" She's still a little bit not sure what she actually plans to do, but she does give him the truth so far as she understands it, which is maybe not. No, I don't think I do love you. And I know that those two things really hurt him in those moments and are not what he wanted to hear. Someone who's not made like Margot, who would have padded those things, who would have softened the blow, that's just someone who's really making something go longer than it needs to, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's probably the humane way to do it. My brother dated a person who was very sure of what they want and don't want. And once he was someone that they did not want anymore, it was so painful to watch someone not lighten the or soften the blow. But I really think it's the only thing that got him over that very important relationship as fast as he was able to do it. It still took a year, but in the grand scheme of things, I think that's probably the most humane way to do anything.
Hard and fast rules are kind of what we crave at our essence. I just want to know the score, even if it's painful. In this scene where Richie goes to visit Eli, he's like, hey, why'd you tell my sister that I love her? Oh, she told you that? Oh, well.
Why would she tell you that, you wonder? Like, I love that they're all out loud like, oh, it was something I was telling her in secret. Why would she tell my secret? Why'd you tell my secret?
I did find it odd when you said you were in love with her. She's married, for one thing. Also, your sister. Adopted. Royal moves it. Well, because Royal is physically removed from the hotel, he then concocts a scheme with Dusty, the bellhop there, who loves him. But Royal has already moved in. Well, he's already moved in upstairs. Set up a medical unit in this room. And then Ben Stiller immediately goes in. He's like, get the fuck out of here. And Gene Hackman's like, oh, okay, son, I'll get out of here. Oh, my heart and chest.
It's like, well, here you go. This is why Chaz thinks Richie hates him. He let him do this. He got him secretly he's helping him invade the house.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes, you answered my question.
Yep.
Then the bellhop is now disguised as a doctor, and he's like, okay, I'm running some tests, and yeah, can't move him out of here. Just let him stay here and continue the stomach cancer medication. Like, oh, okay, yes.
Ah, yes, in the IV and with the robot. Got it.
Royal tells Ethel, he's like, listen, I have a will, and you're included also. I want you to proofread my epitaph, okay? And he unwraps one of many just amazing looking cheeseburgers. You wrap a cheeseburger in foil. There's nothing you can do to make it look more appetizing than put it in some foil. And he's just very, very pleased with himself eating this cheeseburger in bed, and Danny Glover just stares at him. suspicious, but doesn't say anything yet. All right. We have the aforementioned conversation between Chaz and Richie. Why do you hate me? And then Royal is hanging out with Pagoda, his best friend, and they're just looking out of the window and they see Eli sneaking out of Margot's room. And Royal shouts, "I know you, asshole." And it is at this point that Bill Murray comes over to talk to his estranged wife. "How long are you going to stay here? Are you ever coming home?" "I don't know." So Royal watches this, and now Margot goes back to her room, and Royal shouts from the stairs up above. He's like, "Hey, I don't like the way you're treating Riley. You're two-timing him, and that's not right." And she's like, "Well, stay out of it." "Oh, what's wrong with you? You used to be a genius." "No, I didn't." "Oh, well, that's what they said." So
also, geniuses do dumb things all the time.
So Raleigh asks Richie for help. He's like, Margot's having an affair. I just want to find out who's doing it, who she's doing it with. And Richie like punches the glass in anger. "Oh, you punched your fan there real bad." So there is this nice little moment where Royal talks to Ethel. And he's like, I'm worried Chaz is making his boys neurotic. You got to brew some recklessness into them. And she says, "I think that's terrible advice." And he says, No, you don't. And she smiles. She realizes, You're right, I don't. He takes the boys out swimming, jaywalking, go-kart racing, throwing water balloons at cabs, shoplifting, and attending a dogfight, and then riding along on a garbage truck. And they are overjoyed. It's just, live consequence-free. Living consequence-free has led him to this path, but it has its uses too. I think maybe cigarettes are such a big deal in this movie because Royal is kind of a cigarette. He's bad for you ultimately, but he has his uses.
Yeah, you can't deny that he's comforting, that he's cool, that there's just something about it.
And that you need it, and you need more of it.
Right. But it's going to be probably short-lived.
Right. He's going to shorten your life. He tells them the story of Pagoda stabbing him in India because he had a hit out on him.
Which never is explained.
Yeah. But then carried him to the hospital. That too is not explained. But he returns home, and Ben Stiller...
Wait, of course it is. That's just the sheer charm of Royal.
But they don't say...
It's implied.
No, I know it's implied. You're like, everybody, because you can't help it. But it's not like they say, and then he saved my life because he was...
They didn't need to, Matt.
I know
it's the
they
strength
don't
of the
need
movie.
to.
Well,
God, they return home, and Ben Stiller's mad that he's absconded with his kids all day, so he confronts him in the board game closet, and he's like, stop infecting my kids. And Royal barks at him now. He's like, "I think you're having a nervous breakdown. You're not over your wife's death." And Ben Stiller's like, "Shut up," and leaves. And what's good about, here's a good thing about this movie. Him just barking the truth at Ben Stiller, it doesn't work. It's not like, I think a lesser story would be like, right. "Oh yes, finally somebody said it."
You're always complaining about movies that aren't working hard enough for like what they're trying to get across, or like that there needs to be this kind of scene, or here, like you claim bad acting, and I don't always get what you mean, because what I'm seeing is perfectly fine. It's telling the story. It's I'm expecting the beats that are on the TV, and if I've seen it a million times, I'm not expecting anything else out of it. But when you put it up against a movie like this, it's so much more clear to me. Like, I need examples of doing it well for me to be like, "Oh, that is more powerful," or this, that it is the push and pull of this, it doesn't all need to be said, but you do need to understand. And this movie's doing that with so few words.
What I'm usually complaining about, and what I was complaining about in the last episode of Severance, was too much tell, don't show. Too much a person says what they feel, where it would have been better if we had gotten to see them actually do the thing that makes them feel the way they do.
Yes.
So I just think a lesser story would have this be the breakthrough moment. I think that you're having a nervous breakdown because you're not over your wife. And it's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. That's what happens when you lose a wife.
But also, nobody in the family is giving this kind of straight talk. But it's not like right here that this works.
Right, but he's a domino. That's what the dad does. He lays down these little. Simply him being interjected into their life is clearly been the thing that is missing for all of them, and it's not obvious why. It doesn't even seem like it could be true, but as the months progress, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm starting to feel better about everything. Mm-hmm. Just need a little injection of you. And I need to know that you care enough to even notice that I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And that my kids might not be happy. And
like, certainly it's a thing that happens to real people, like who don't get along with their parents. They have kids and suddenly their parents are great grandparents to the kids. Yeah. It's like, for some reason, that's just a thing people are able to do, is treat their grandkids a way they could never treat their kids, or can be the kind of like, they can be the fun grandparent in a way that they could never be the fun parent to you.
Yeah.
And this is just, you get to see the expression of just pure fun grandparent, even maybe in a malicious way, but it being exactly what they need.
But it's just, parenting is so weird.
It is.
You have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You have no idea. So I can imagine, like, okay, well, I somehow like love the children that are shooting out of you just as much as if they had been shooting out of me. And now I'm not going to get blamed if they're fucked up. I can just do all the shit I never let myself do with you, because I was under so much scrutiny from my own parents or my own upbringing. And I was putting so much pressure or not caring enough at all about the way I was raising you. But now it even looks like you, this little baby. And it makes sense. It's a weird thing to experience. Mm-hmm. I feel like I would like that as a parent, experiencing a good grandparent, even if I didn't have a good parent, but I'd also need some therapy.
Yeah, I think they're not going to hear this. It would be, it would certainly be nice if suddenly, like, one of our parents revealed themselves to be an outstanding, like, super fun grandparent,
and just
totally surprised us.
Just totally tuned into all the needs and everything. Just like, hey, I'm not tired. I'm not overly opinionated.
And like, yeah, maybe I'd secretly resent it, but like, better than the alternative.
Yeah. No, same.
But I love this moment when so Bensler leaves the board game closet. Royal's left in the closet, and he looks down, he sees his hog head that has been taken down from the wall. He's like, oh, here it is.
Well, and you realize, like, that just is the totem for the dad. He's just this fucking bore who just barrels into places, and he's fucking causes a muck and causes a mess, but he's fun. He's literally game, you know? Yep. And so when he walks into the house, the first thing he notices is that the boar head was taken off the wall. So, you know, he was removed from the family. He was the missing piece. They never replaced him.
Right.
The outline of where that head was there. That the whole family structure was, we're going to keep going and not deal with this. But it's still, yeah, I don't know. They don't have the tools to like get over him.
And they just put it in a closet where you could just have gone and gotten it at any time, in the same way that he's like, when he first meets up with Anjelica Huston, she's like, we haven't talked in 7 years.
Right. Like, why?
You could have just, if this was always available to you, you could have at any moment done this, in the same way that, yeah, you could have gone into the closet, gotten the boar's head at any moment. It was always available. Now you had to invent a fake crisis to get back.
And we could have bought a new picture and hung it in the place of the boar's head. We left the spot open for you. They're not just as to blame, but there's something specifically broken in this family that doesn't know how to move on either.
Mm-hmm. And Anjelica Huston asks, she takes a sweet little walk. Royal and Ethel do. And she said, why didn't you give a damn about us, Royal? He's like, I don't know. I'm ashamed of myself. And it's just like, it's not more complicated than that.
Right.
There's no, well, you know, it was on, everything changed when, nope, just selfish. I don't know. Not that self-aware. There's not that much going on here. And he's like, I'll tell you this though. You got more grits, gut, and determination than any woman I've ever met. And she smiles. And he's like, why are you smiling? She's like, these expressions of yours.
You're true blue, Ethel.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you're true blue, Ethel. You truly are.
I mean, you know, he's a man that had a bunch of options. He was successful, and he's good looking, and he's charming. So he was able to get a lot of suitors. He marries her. He gets 3 kids, and she's attractive and great, but he's got options. Mm-hmm. And so he cheats on her, and that ends the marriage. And then he lives at a hotel, and he's got a masseuse. He's just got this a life full of possibilities, and that's all it takes to distract a person like that. But at the end of that rope, when you go and look back at what you had before, you realize Ethel actually was the best of everything I had experienced. I just would have had no way of knowing that until I'd run through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So you can have this renewed appreciation and wow, I'm really feeling something different hanging out with my kids, even though it's not all that enjoyable, from these years of getting to do whatever the fuck I want. And it sometimes takes a lifetime to know this is what I was missing now that I've done everything else.
And I love how she plays it. She's so great in this movie. She's great in everything, obviously, but never plays the resentment, really. It's like it just kind of runs from indulgent. Well, first is angry at him, but then like disappointed to indulgent to here, just like this. I fucking love this guy.
She's all in that. It reminds me of my mom and dad. Like that they could not work. That my mom having kids totally changed their dynamic. My dad was not ever going to be different than what he was, and my mom knew that she had to be. But what made my dad magical and what drew everyone to him, and you couldn't help but like him, and he's just funny, and he's I don't know, this reminds me of this, because when they would reconnect, when they would see each other again, it'd be like no time had passed. They really were probably each other's love of their life. Like they just had this chemistry that made both of them more interesting and more fun, and they made sense in a way that they didn't when they were apart. And so that's what this captures, that in a way that, I mean, because when my dad was dying, my mom brought him in. He lived at our house until he lived in hospice and different. It never goes away. Mm-hmm. It's a special kind of relationship, even if you are divorced.
What she's playing here, though, is I see what I always saw, and I will always love him, but I am smart now and realize, but that's not who you marry. And Danny Glover is like spying on them and is worried in the background.
Yeah.
He has no reason to be. She's not an idiot. She's lived and learned. Mm-hmm. But this activates Danny Glover to be like, well, he knows Royal isn't really sick. He can't persuade Ethel of that yet, but.
And we don't know this, but his wife died of stomach cancer. So, Royal just happens to pick the exact thing this man has experience with.
Right. But like Pagoda tells Royal in the secret closet while they're clinking glasses of martinis, he's like, she's as good as yours, basically. I saw him. She just instead of going out on a date with Henry, she sent him off in a gypsy cab by himself. He's like, oh, great. The plan is coming together. But the scene with Royal confronting Henry. Are you trying to steal my woman, Coltrane? Did you call me Coltrane? No.
Well, I have.
You want to talk some jive? I'll give you jive like you've never heard. And then they just start yelling at each other. Henry goes off to Royal's room, looks at his pills. He's like, is this a Tic Tac? Makes some phone calls, and then summons the whole family into the room to tell everybody the truth. While they're waiting for everyone to arrive, Royal and Margot are watching Eli being interviewed on Charlie Rose. Mm-hmm. Your most recent book, Wildcat, not a success. Why? Wildcat.
Wildcatting.
I'm going to go. He is just strung out on mescaline. What is mescaline?
Mescaline is a psychedelic.
Should we do it?
Yep.
All right. Henry summons everyone. They're there. I know what stomach cancer looks like. The pain is excruciating. My wife had it. And I'll tell you one thing. You don't eat 3 gorgeous cheeseburgers every day when you have stomach cancer. And Pagoda's been helping. He's in on it too. And Pagoda does not betray Royal. But he's like, so I called the doctor. The hospital keeps talking about closed in 1974. There is no doctor, whatever the doctor keeps referencing. As he says all of this, Gene Hackman just stands up from the hospital bed and goes and starts collecting.
He gets dressed and he's just like, yep, it's over.
As the speech is going on, he's like, well, I'm found out.
And I like that. I like that the big reveal of this movie isn't that.
Yes.
That the movie has a whole other
45 minutes left to it. Was Pagoda part of this? Like, yeah, well, no, only a little.
Right.
And he says, look, the last 6 days have been the best 6 days of probably my whole life. Now the narrator comes back. As Royal said this, he realized suddenly it was true. And you can literally see this on Gene Hackman's face right after he says it. That was just a line until I realized that was true and something more has been going on with me here. So on his way out, he basically has a moment with each of the people. Ethel's like, why did you do this? We haven't spoken in 7 years. Well, I thought I could win you back. Plus, I was broke. And she says, you're a bastard. Tells Chaz, take it easy on your boys. I don't want what's happened to me to happen to you. I don't want them to hate you when they're old. He's like, Richie, the one who likes him, he's like, listen, this whole death thing is giving me a whole new perspective. He's like, but you weren't dying. He's like, yeah, now I'm not dying. And then the thing we already talked about where he says to Margot, of Henry, he's not your father. Neither are you. And then Pagoda comes out and lightly stabs him with a pocket knife and then immediately helps him get into the cab and gets in with him. Mm-hmm. So he stabs him because he lost him his job.
Yeah, he's been there for like 30 something years. It's a cushy ass job.
Because I misremembered it as him stabbing him so that he could go to the hospital. But no, they just go to the 375th Street Y. Mm-hmm. And I love when they're like unpacking in their room and Gene Hackman says to him, he's like, you have any money? He's like, no. You're broke? How could you be broke?
I mean, yeah, but how could he? He's been living there and not having rent.
Yeah, but you were a corporate lawyer. You're like one of the wealthiest people in town. Okay.
Well, you lived at a hotel. Yeah.
There's the scene where Margot meets up with Eli to tell him, and he says to her, I'm not in love with you. And she says, I didn't know you already were. And he's like, well, it's sick and gross that you're in love with your brother. Also, do you send your press clippings to my mom? He's like, please stop belittling me. You never gave me the time of day until I started getting good reviews. Well, your reviews aren't that good. Well, the sales are. And then Raleigh and Richie go to a private investigator and they get read a dossier on Margot and all the loves she's had, all the illicit affairs, the time she was married secretly in Jamaica, plus she smokes cigarettes. And so knowing that Margot is having an affair with Eli is what drives Richie mad. And there's an incredibly effective sequence where Luke Wilson goes into the bathroom. Needle in the Hay by Elliott Smith is playing. And Luke Wilson first, cuts his own hair, shaves with scissors, which I've been shaving for 15 years. My big beard that I've had for 15 years. I was like, oh, scissors. Oh, I could use scissors.
No, you can't.
No?
It would never look the way. No.
No. But sometimes I'm like, I just can't get what I need done with
scissors.
Yeah. Glad I watched. But then, and the way it's shot and the way it's lit is so upsetting. He starts, cutting himself.
Yeah.
As Needle in the Hay plays, Elliott Smith maybe committed suicide in 2004, 3 years after this movie came out, or there's some plausible evidence that he was murdered. Anyway, either way, it's very weird that his song is playing. Mm-hmm. As this happens, the family rushes him to the hospital and Pencil is like, why'd you try to kill yourself? He's like, well, I wrote a suicide note. He's like, well, can I read it? No. Can you paraphrase it? I don't think so. Is it dark? Well, it's a suicide note. And then sitting in the hospital waiting room, Bill Murray confronts Margot saying, you've made a cuckold of me and you nearly killed your poor brother. And also she's a smoker. And her mother's like, you smoke? Well, I really think you should quit. And it's just how glorious times was it when you could smoke in a hospital?
I'm not convinced that you could at this time. No, I feel like Gene Hackman and Gwenyth Paltrow are smoking all over the place where they're not supposed to.
Yeah. But then there's the wonderful moment where Henry, Danny Glover, shows up, sees his fiance, sees Ethel, and he's like, how can I help? Mm-hmm. Oh, let me see those forms. And he just starts looking at the forms. It's like, that's what he does.
Yeah.
I'm a form man. I can read forms and tell you what's going on here.
Well, and that's the right thing to say. You're not at all concerned with yourself at a moment when you should not be. Mm-hmm. Just say, how can I help?
Or, as we've argued in the past, just start helping. Even better.
Yeah.
Don't ask, how can I help? Just start doing something. Even if it's annoying and you get in their way. But just seeing that in him, you are here, you're present, and you're doing your thing, and that's all I ever wanted. Royal and Pagoda arrive later, but visiting hours are over, so they're like, can we maybe tie some bed sheets together and sneak in the room? Oh wait, no, there's Luke Wilson right there getting on the bus. And he just leaves, and they're like, well, he didn't look half bad for a suicide. Attempted anyway. Luke Wilson goes back to their home, goes up to his room, but his sisters are already in his tent, listening to Rolling Stones records. So he shows her his scars.
His wounds.
Yes.
They're disgusting. I mean, he went at himself.
And she asks, was it my fault that you did that? And he's like, yeah, but, or no, why did you do it? Because of me? Yeah, but it's not your fault. Are you going to do it again? I doubt it. They tell each other that they love each other. And then she just says, I think we're just going to have to be secretly in love with each other and leave it at that. Mm. Yeah.
He's never been more handsome. I always thought he was good looking, but I'm not always like, ooh.
Yeah.
But here. And she's never looked better either.
Well,
I love the black eyeliner and the haircut.
I certainly think this was start of a thing of well, maybe Tim Burton started it, of a pale woman with dark eyes who's depressed and talks like this.
You just don't usually see a blonde.
That's true.
Very,
that's true.
and she's so well put together, and she's rich, and she's a lot of things you don't expect. Mordecai. So many roofs in this movie.
There's a lot of roofs.
And then everyone's been wearing a uniform this entire time, including from when they were children. It really doesn't change. They all are wearing the same. Even Anjelica Huston, who does change her clothes, it's always a business suit. Like, it's always the same thing. And then now we've moved on to the dad literally only wearing a uniform from here on out.
Right. I think Wes Anderson, like fancy boy, like prep school kid who loves like fashion and everything, probably also wishes like, I wish people were like cartoon characters and only had their uniform.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
And I wish that too. It'd be easier on me with my face blindness. Ah, yes.
Purple
Bellhop man.
Right.
He goes to see his dad at the hotel, and his dad says like, well, he's asking, why are you working as a bellhop? And he's like, well, I'm broke, and also I'm just hoping to pay my dues and hoping someone notices. So even there, it's like, I'm doing something and I'm hoping to get praise for it. It's not even a thing unto itself.
What good is paying your dues if no one's realizing you're paying them? I don't know. I just think he's honest, and I think it is about other people beyond himself too. But
Dad, you asked me why I choked that day on the tennis court. I think I know, and I need your advice. He's like, holy shit, my advice? Okay. So they go up onto the roof. And, you know, we don't hear him when he says, I'm in love with Margot, but he says, Margot Tenenbaum? Does she know? Yeah, she knows. He's like, well, that's got to be illegal. He's like, I don't think so. He's like, well, it's still frowned upon. But then again, what isn't these days? You know, if you two love each other, what the hell? Anyway, don't listen to me. I never understood her. I never understood any of us. I wish I could tell you what to do, but I just can't. Well, that's okay. No, it's not. You still consider me your father? Of course I do. I wish I had more to offer in that department. I know you do, Pop. And then Mordecai the Hawk returns now to Luke Wilson, except now he's much whiter. And they're like,
it's hard being away from your family.
Yeah, exactly. Except this was a different Hawk. Like at the production, they lost the first Hawk.
Oh, okay,
so they had to write that into the movie. The thing about him changing colors.
Great.
But yes, it totally works with the whole thing about the family.
Yeah.
I think maybe the business with the birds, one element too many. We also have to have a fucking falcon.
Yeah. Right. No, I'm with you on that. I don't need any of the roof stuff, honestly. There doesn't need to be more parts of the house.
You can be on the roof, but you don't need a fucking falcon.
I know. I do. You're right.
He asks his dad to go to Eli's apartment so they can offer to take him to rehab.
It's very sweet. I mean, they're both. He's fucked up the family being willing to have an affair with Margot, and Richie particularly doesn't need to be happy with him or caring about him, but like, you know, he really is a part of the family, and for them to both go and just show up.
Yes.
It's just, and for Eli, it says as much as like, you're probably not going to think I mean this right when I do what I'm about to do, but I wish you'd always done. Thank you for doing this.
But yeah, I wish you'd done this when we were kids. He's like, but you didn't have a drug problem. He's like, yeah, but it still would have meant a lot to me, which is, I don't know, such a wonderful line. It's like that. Yeah, that's not what he means. He's just, I wish we could have been more emotionally honest with each other, or just told each other what we need from each other.
Well, and I wish that you'd come over here, right? Because he spent his whole life going over there.
Yeah, you're right. And literally, your dad is in my apartment. That's weird. And powerful. And he means it even though he's now going to run away and not go to rehab.
Well, and that he built out his sad apartment into a Tenenbaum house. You know, I mean, he stayed across the street. He built out and used a bunch of rooms and made him a big fancy room. You know, he Tenenbaummed himself.
In this apartment?
Yeah, he's across the street from where he always lived, but he made it nice. He made it a mansion because he's rich. He tried to make his house over there something they'd come to.
And they never had. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Then he flees the scene. So, Royal goes to take.
He takes her out to the ice cream parlor.
To an amazing ice cream parlor. And, he's trying to, again, microwave the reconciliation. Look, I'm sorry. Can't somebody be a shit their whole life and then basically say sorry and make up for it? And she's not having it. She says, you don't even know my middle name. And he's like, that's a trick question. You don't have one. Helen. Oh, that's my mother's name.
I know. That's why it's my middle name.
So one thing, I keep saying that. One thing I like about this movie, the reconciliations, they're uneven. He doesn't actually necessarily fix things with Margot. Mm-hmm. And at the end, he ends up closer to Chaz than he ends up with anybody else. But he's trying. We get the great scene where he gives Ethel a divorce, just surprises her in the street. Here, divorce papers. Go ahead, sign. I even brought a notary. Mm-hmm. And then he looks at Danny Glover and he's like, I didn't see it at first, but now I get it. He's everything I'm not. So, all right, now we're nearing toward the end. We're having a wedding at their home on Archer Avenue, and we meet Henry. Henry has a son, Walter, and now Chaz, who has been like a little adversarial toward Henry
because he doesn't like father figures.
Yeah, and otherwise just suspicious. Doesn't like father figures, but hasn't considered him
a person,
right? That's with his own history,
right? Like, oh my God, do you have a son? Oh my God, you were married before. Oh my God, she died.
So he talks. And
I have someone who
to
died.
The son. He's like, so he's your dad? Yeah. So you've been married before? He's like, yes, I'm a widower. And Ben Stiller, then they're getting ready in front of the mirror. Ben Stiller stands next to him and starts adjusting his own time. He's like, I'm a widower.
And it's like, yes, this is the other thing about the Royal Tenenbaums is it's all about you guys. This is your story. Everyone goes to your house. Everyone knows what's going on with you. You guys do not ask questions of each other, and you don't ask questions of strangers. So why would you know my story, Chaz? You don't know anything.
And just the most moving little delivery. Danny Glover just turns to him, looks at him, puts his hand on his shoulder. I know you are, Chaz. And then he turns, and now all four of these men are just adjusting their tie. Aww. In the mirror. I love positive stepfather representation in film as a wonderful stepfather myself.
You are.
Now Eli is driving to the wedding. He's driving high and he crashes his car. He's about to hit the boys, Ari and Uzi. But Royal jumps and grabs him and moves him out of the way. And Ben Stiller runs out of the house freaking out, but they're like, no, everything's okay. And Richie immediately steps in. He's like, Dad, save them. And he did? Yes, but they lost the dog. They killed Buckley the dog. I just realized Buckley must have been named after William F. Buckley.
Yeah.
For being because Ben Stiller's a little business psycho. Mm-hmm. That's funny. Good movie. So Chaz then chases Eli through the house where they injure the priest. The whole time their house has been next door to a Japanese embassy or a Japanese mission of some kind. They end up in like the Zen garden of the Japanese embassy next door. Well, but first Chaz is like getting very violent with Owen Wilson, and everybody's like staring at him in horror. But like I think it's pretty reasonable.
Well, this whole time Chaz has been waiting for another tragedy to happen, and you can't beat up a plane. So it's like you are the chaos. You are the thing I can't predict. Fuck you. You're going to be always coming for my family. At least I can beat you up. And then he reaches him and he realizes like, you're just some fucking guy. This is stupid.
Yeah.
I don't even want to beat the plane up.
They lay down next to each other in the Zen garden.
They're all Zen.
Did I hurt the dog? Yeah. Is he dead? Yeah. I need help. So do I. So Henry and Royal, they walk to the embassy next door. As they're walking, Royal's like, I wish I could convince you I'm not an asshole. And he's like, I don't think you're an asshole, Royal. I just think you're a son of a bitch. Well, I really appreciate that. And then they answer the door at the Japanese embassy, and Royal's like, could you help us out, ma'am? We lost a few of our boys in your backyard.
Like the ball went over there.
The firefighters arrive, and Royal is like talking to them about their Dalmatian, and for some reason maybe I could buy this Dalmatian. All right.
Dog for a dog. Also, this kid invented Dalmatian mice. It'll be like, hey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Symmetry. But, when you are rich for so long, this is just how you view the world.
Bought this dog off of him.
And in this oneer, we see, Eli talking to the cops. Royal's on the fire truck. Bill Murray's on the fire truck. Dudley, Pagoda, they're all in the fire truck. Dusty is the fake doctor examining Richie's eye, and he's like, I think it should be okay. Henry and his son looking down at the scene, and Henry's like, well, it's best to file a force majeure claim. Then we recoup the deductible. And his son's like, oh, yeah. Then Royal takes the Dalmatian to Chaz, like, look, I got you a new dog. He's very obviously moved by this. And Gene Hackman's like, sorry, I let you down, Chaz. I've been trying to make it up to you. Chaz bends down, asks for the dog's name. He says Sparkplug. Royal himself has been a spark plug for this family.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ben Stiller says, oh, yeah, that famous line, I've had a rough year, Dad. I know you have, Chazzy. Best moment in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do as a parent is just be a receptacle for your children's pain.
Yeah.
When they're an adult, I mean. Until then, you can
beat them.
You own them.
Oh, right.
And, he buries the dog. Ethel and Henry get married 2 days later in Judge's chambers. Mordecai is back. And Margot puts on a new play. It closes in 2 weeks, but while it's open, Royal attends and he laughs. Probably not the right time.
Sure.
But he's there. Eli goes to rehab. Richie starts training kids on how to teach tennis. There's a shot of Ben Stiller on the garbage truck with his dad. And then Alec Baldwin, the narrator, says Royal had a heart attack at the age of 68. Chaz rode with him in the ambulance and was the only witness to his father's death. And you see him holding his dad's hand and his dad smiling at him. And that's that. So the movie ends with the funeral scene. Everyone attends the funeral. Chaz and his sons in black tracksuits rather than red. It was agreed among them Royal would have found the funeral most satisfactory. Then we see his epitaph, which is Royal O'Reilly Tenenbaum, 1932 to 2001, died tragically rescuing his family from the wreckage of a destroyed sinking battleship, which is true metaphorically.
Yes, metaphorically.
And he said this, set this up while he was still being like cynically trying to just grift off his family.
Well, he's never grifting. He was just trying to get some status back in their lives.
Literally needed a place to stay, though.
Yeah, but I really do think those things just lined up and it made it practical. And he's honest, so he said it. But that's what I'm saying. It's getting set up as if this is some kind of a scam and you're not going to like this guy. And the whole time you're just like, no, he just means what he says.
Yeah.
You can be mooching off people and not be grifting them.
And that's the movie. The last thing of the movie is Pagoda closes the gate on the cemetery plot, which says Tenenbaum.
I think that he would have said, that's a nice plot. So
hell of a damn grave.
Hell of a grave.
All right. Final thoughts and star ratings for the Royal Tenenbaums.
I give it a 5.
5.
I didn't rank it I didn't do it on Letterboxd yet, but I tried to think of a flaw or one thing I would change and I couldn't.
Yeah, I think I pointed out some issues I have with it, but that doesn't mean I won't give it 5 stars. I think it's my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It might be my favorite Gene Hackman performance. Might be my favorite performance from every single actor in this movie. Definitely Uzi and Ari give their best performances. The mice are great. The Dalmatian's great. Buckley's great. Yes, wonderful movie. I am just sort of an unapologetic Wes Anderson fan. I love Asteroid City. I love Rushmore. I love Bottle Rocket. I love Grand Budapest. I love Moonrise Kingdom. And I was an idiot when I was a teenager. I should have been more open-minded.
Very stupid boy.
So thank you everybody for subscribing to Load Bearing Beams.
Oh yeah.
Collector's Edition. And we'll see you real soon, Collector. We love you. Goodbye.
Okay, I love you. Goodbye. Collectors.
3, 4. Everybody, Load Bearing Beams,